Okay, so this month we'll be doing animals, and before I forget, we are going to have another class tomorrow.
Hi everyone.
Hi. I was wondering what happened.
What time tomorrow, Aditi?
If we can have it from 9:30, that'd be better because I have to go elsewhere later in the day. But even 10 to 11:30 is fine. So there's one.
Sorry, I missed that. What was that, Aditi?
What?
I said sorry, I missed that. What was that?
Class tomorrow.
Acha.
Because last week we didn't have class, no? So we had switched that to today. And today we'll start off with animals in our regular class. And tomorrow's class, I'll just do that one more graphic floral thing from last month that we'll have missed out. So is 10 o'clock okay with everyone? Tomorrow, you can also put it on the group. 9:30 somehow on a Sunday just seems cruel.
Yeah.
Then, like double-digit figures at least seems bearable, the thought of it.
Yeah, 10 o'clock is fine.
Yeah, I'm okay.
Okay, cool.
So
All
I'm
right.
not going out tomorrow.
Okay.
Tomorrow's class I'll miss.
Okay, then during the week, sometime if you want, you could attend one of those classes. Although we won't be doing florals then in that. But
Then
you could,
maybe that I can do.
sorry?
I can watch the recording.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm going to probably be missing the 17th, 18th classes also.
17th, 18th again. Oh no, we have 17th, 18th.
Yeah.
Yes, I don't have the week after that again. I have to go out of town.
And
Okay, we'll see.
we'll watch the recording.
Okay. Okay, so this month I'm going to do all different types of animals. Usually I club animals together. So we'll do furry animals and then birds and then reptiles in larger, uh, over larger time spans. But this month I'll just do a one type of each through the month. I want to start with birds, simply because it's closer to birding season everywhere. And those of you who are interested in birds can now start even illustrating them as part of the, say, decorations around whatever else you're doing, like the letters and all that you're sending. So put a bird on the envelope or on the card, things like that. So birds are as plentiful as flowers, I feel, and also just as pretty. I have chosen some, excuse me, some birds which we will be seeing in many parts of the country right now also. So this is one kind of bee eater, I think. Though I haven't seen this anywhere in Pune.
Lovely colors.
Yeah, I chose it for the colors. Then
Your favorite cerulean blue.
yes. So this
Colors
the
are similar to the kingfisher, na? So similar.
The kingfisher gives us the opportunity to practice brushwork. You can see the feathers on his chest very clearly. So this will be a nice thing to practice and paint. Likewise, even sparrows. I've often found just because sparrows are so numerous, we don't give them due credit. They're so pretty. The pattern is just
They
so,
look very cute, actually. Very cute.
yeah, and all the mannerisms are also so cute. They jump around in water and how they fluff about, and it's just very sweet. And their chirp is bearable, not like a crow. And this one, I just found that contrast in colors is beautiful. I don't even know what bird this is. Then I tried really hard to see whether this is a painting also, but it looks like a photograph. So this would be a nice one to paint as well.
The goldfinch.
Oh, okay. Oh, just excuse me 1 second. I need to take this. Um, yeah. Okay, so we are going to first start off with sketching the birds, and we can do a quick sketch of all the birds and then choose the one that you want, and then you can paint that. Or I would be, I'm so confused now which one to take. So while drawing, I'll probably choose one, or maybe you guys can choose for me, and I'll show you how to paint that one. Today I will be seen on two screens. One is my hands and one is my face. So I'll be switching the spotlight between the two. There's something wrong with the connection and I can't figure it out. So this is what we have to work with. All right. So normally when we start any sketching, we look for the internal geometry between within the subject that we are trying to draw. So I want you to figure out the geometry while sketching. So let me give you an idea of what I look for, and that will give you some clues. So we start off with simple shapes like circles or ovals. Then within that, you will see that if I were to make this as one basic shape, and because I want the line of from the head to the tail, I'm not necessarily drawing the line right in the center of the circle vertically, but I will draw it at a point where I can see it go straight down. This is the difference. This is the internal geometry that I'm relying on. Then I can also see a certain oval shape in the body. And this oval shape also can be a factor of the size of the head. So it's almost as if you have two, the height of, or just smaller circles than the size of the head. Fitting into the body. And then the V shape below can be about the same size as the oval, but it comes down towards the center, and maybe half more to the end of the tail. The size of the beak is about 1/2 of the head plus a quarter. So you get that dimension. So this is what I look for. the placement, the distance, angle, space between, and what else? Texture of line. This is a good indication of, I mean, this information is enough for us to start making the sketch. So I'm going to share this image, and I want you to then use similar such proportions to figure out how you would maybe draw or sketch out the kingfisher, the sparrow, and this goldfinch. We are going to make small sketches first. These will just be studies, and then one of these we will choose to make a larger painting of. Okay, I've shared the image of the bee eaters. So this is the size of the bird. I'm going to make both birds. So my size of my circle is not going to be too large. I'll draw a line running horizontal. This is middle, right of middle, coming straight down. Two small circles. A V about the same size as this. And then one feather longer. This is the basic shape. Once you have this shape, you can go back to the original picture and draw the image. Those of you who are familiar with birding, you'll notice, I mean, you'll know for sure how every little shape that you make in birds is significant. So if your beak becomes too wide, too long, you will end up changing the species of the bird. So you have to be rather careful. So in a way, drawing birds is very close to drawing humans. A tiny line that goes off can change Sanjeev Kumar to Kishore Kumar or so on. So we don't know how to do that. When you're drawing the lines to separate the feathers also, instead of drawing a line like this, you can consider drawing lines which are, for a change, the lines that I tell you not to draw. Those are lines which look like hesitating lines, or lines which are like fences. Some feathers will have sharp edges and the others will have literally feathery lines. And do practice making the eye. When you're making the black part, instead of shading the whole thing one dark shade, build up that darkness. That makes some lines or some patches dark and some patches light or slightly gray, which will give our beak some life or the bird some life. You can practice drawing very slim, thin lines. And layering them very gently. So I want you to keep your shading or sketching hand very light here and control the line. The second bird would be somewhat like this here. Beak pointing up slightly. The eye of this bird is fairly simple. I want to show you how to shade that. At whatever size you make it, remember that this is basically the structure. You have the eye. Generally, there is some kind of membrane around it. And they too will have a pupil. Sometimes the color of the iris is dark, so you don't see it as a separate color. In the case of this bird, the color of the iris is um, burnt sienna or something like that. Depending upon where the eye is looking, this shape changes, whether it's a human eye, animal eye, bird eye. So an eye that is looking straight at us, excuse me, will be a perfect circle. An eye that is looking away will be an oval. And very frequently, the pupil will tell you which side the eye is looking, but we won't get into so much detail. There is always some highlight in the top part of the eye. The reason the highlight is in the top part is the fact that light always comes to us from somewhere higher than our eyesight. Usually it is sunlight, daylight, or tube light. So everything is illuminated better when it is higher. And then you can shade around the eye very lightly, just the top three quarters, and leave a little highlight again towards the bottom. But this highlight is not as bright as the highlight of the um, source of light. Whatever size eye you make, always first put down that highlight. So even if you don't do the shading of the iris around, you need to make the pupil and the lens and the iris and put that shadow down. And your bird will, even if it is the rest of the lines are not up to mark, the bird will look believable. Okay, let's move to the kingfisher. You can start off with the beak because it's such an important feature of the kingfisher. The size of the beak is almost the same size as the head. Use crude or simple lines to first make the shapes of the different colors, color patches. And keep building this proportion. So this is another way you can go about practicing your sketching. So when you have shapes like these to draw, I would urge you to not try to draw them in one straight line like that. Size of the wing is fairly large here. Break it up into shorter, straighter lines till you get the right shape and you're comfortable with the shape that you have made. Again, try the beak. The beak also is not one single color. You will have a joint. Just above the joint, there's a shape that is shaded. Then there is a ridge. And then there's a little bit of a valley which comes up to the nose, nostrils, and then there's a slight curve. Each of those shapes and shades, shadows, will inform you about the texture of the beak, its overall shape, and also the patches where it's shiny. Now, notice how the shape of this eye is not a perfect oval. It's slightly flattish towards the front and then flat around the top and then oval along the back. And then there is this membrane. So I want you to really spend time on the eye. And though you cannot see the pupil and the lens separately, do make it that way. Instead of shading one dark color, there is a little bit of highlight in the corner of the eye. Definitely make that. And then gently shade everything. Now, when we come to the feathers, this is a very interesting texture to make. And I've found that many times students have made these textures without looking at the bird. So you'll end up making a texture that's just like this, parallel lines of texture. But that is not accurate. So it looks like a half-hearted effort. Look at the texture on the crown, on the rest of the body. It takes a little time. Some places you will see that this texture is indeed parallel lines, but then the width of that texture, each bit of texture may not be the same. So it tends to look more believable and more interesting rather than just making zigzag lines. And definitely don't do this zigzag, zigzag, zigzag lines. That just looks horrible. So we want individual lines back and forth if you want to make it look more natural. And keep an eye on your reference image. I realize that making this texture is extremely tedious and can be considered very boring, but it is an investment. So you don't say that investment is boring, so you're not going to do it. It's going to reap you good results. So spend that time. In this case, the result is that you start becoming so comfortable with that wispy line that your next illustration, which could be the illustration for the final picture, your hand will also become much stronger. Your line will be more predictable, controlled, just by doing these exercises. Also, when you are making line or sketching line by line, the places where the texture suddenly becomes light, you can uh, leave that part unsketched instead of going back and erasing. If you can learn to enjoy this part of arts, the sketching part, then have you can really, really expect fabulous results as you go on. Those who do not enjoy sketching, unfortunately, often I feel miss out on the true joy of art. That's what really pains me when art college students are not sketching as much. Okay, so is everyone comfortable with the sketching? Do you have any questions? Do you feel you have any problems that you'd like me to help you sort out?
Aditi ma'am, I have a question. Can you
Yeah.
hear?
Yeah.
Okay. So basically, I was observing. So when you sketch, you take breaks with the line.
Mhm.
But when I'm trying to sketch, my line generally comes like, it will try to be a longer one rather than taking breaks. So how do I, forcefully stop that it has to be a shorter line so that I observe more on the picture and, so that it looks more like a picture rather than I'm assuming that it's a shape. So I try to, draw that shape.
So you just have to make the line, I don't know, you just have to make it short.
Okay.
So I'll tell you what. It is possible that when you're drawing, you have your hand lifted and you're just making whole shapes like that. That is also a good way to sketch, and your line will be free. When you want to make short lines, you plant your hand on the paper and make only a straight line. If you hold the pencil about 3 inches or 4 inches away from the tip, at best you can make a line which is about 3 inches or 4 inches straight without lifting. So when you keep it down and you try to sketch, then you have to constantly keep moving the hand in order to extend that line further. When you are drawing a free hand line, even if you keep it over here, it's not as if your hand needs the support. So you don't really have to, you can just draw a line like that. Or in many cases, keeping the hand in the air makes you draw a longer line as well. So that is also part of the process. In this case, because there are so many different shapes, and not just in this case, the final drawing we're making is very tiny. It's not a huge A3 or A2 size paper. So we can afford to make lines just 1 or 2 inches or 3 inches at a time also. So just keep this down and then try to make the line in this manner. I'll just show you another bird and maybe that will make it clear. Okay, let's say we have this sparrow.
Yeah.
So I think what you're saying is you will make something like this.
Yes.
So that's not wrong either. Once I have made this, suppose let me try doing the two together. This is a great way also. But now we have to go down to specifics. When we come down to making the specific line, you can make the beak like this. And then I want to make the head. So instead of trying to keep going over and over, which is not wrong, by the way, here's another way you can do it. You make short, straight lines around which that circle is easier to draw. And
Okay.
it's easier to adjust a straight line than to adjust a round line, because it's like each of those lines you have to
Mhm.
adjust. Okay, now here also the chest can be addressed like that. This is a straight line, this is an angle, and this is an angle. Here in the back, you have a straight line coming here and here, cut across. And then you have the tail. So it's easier to get those silhouettes in and position all the different features with these straight lines. And then after all of this is done also, then we can go into making the actual shape. Now in this case, the oval is rounder niche because the bird is looking down. ठीक है ना?
Yeah. Yes.
All right. All right. So which bird should we paint? I think now everyone should be okay with making these sketches. You can make the goldfinch also right next to it. Any particular preference?
Let's paint the sparrow.
Sparrow, no? ठीक है.
Unless someone else wants to do something else, that's fine.
Does anyone have any pressing desire for another bird? Looks like not.
No, I think sparrow is a good idea.
Yeah, that is a good idea because we've done a kingfisher before. So
Yeah, oh, we have, is it? Okay, okay. This bird, I think, is the only one whose legs are visible. And the, not claws, what are they called? Talons? No, these are claws. No, feet. Bird feet are just seem like such a problem. They're literally like dragon feet. For something that's so cute, in the top half has such brutal looking feet. Okay. Now with the sparrow drawing, is everyone comfortable with drawing of the sparrow? Has everyone sketched it out once? Don't paint the sketch, make another one. And this time make it slightly bigger so we can paint the details. Can you imagine how difficult this must be for naturalists like Darwin to go there and sit there, and maybe he just collected the bird and taxidermied them, but still, it must take a different kind of madness to do it. Since we're going to paint this bird, you can still make a few textured lines in pencil. These textured lines will lay out the, I guess, the geography, so you can locate features like eyes and other parts of the bird more accurately. Blank paper can really mislead a white space. So gently fill in some gray space in the sections which are dark. So you get the a true idea of how much space is required. At every point, wherever you can see feathers, however subtle they are, try to draw those edges, but not as lines like these. They can look rather crude when we paint them. So break them up and draw these fence lines. And the feathers below have sharper lines of sharper edges. So you can draw those. As far as the wings are concerned, you can break it up into 3 sections. You have the section on top, just far too many lines. So you can't really break up more than just the dark lines. A V shape here, and then some supporting lines over here, and then another shape there. And then you have a second line, which is like waves. Here you do have some demarcation of feathers, but we can paint those directly. And then you have the feathers in the bottom part, which are much more distinct. With light tips. These we will have to draw. Check proportions again. Right. Once your drawing is done, get rid of the unnecessary lines. And also lighten the line wherever you feel it's too dark. In most cases, I think you can still retain the line, except this white part. There's the size, the oval of the head is running through the white part of the bird. So I'm removing that. Everything else can be made.
Aditi, can I show you mine?
Yes.
Just feels like the poor bird's neck is like weird.
Yeah. Okay. Now just visually
Like a
imagine.
sparrow, no?
No, it's not a sparrow. It's more like a dove. So wait, Ritu, wait, don't draw. So you are going over the line without checking if that is the right line. The head, you need the beak to be like a V shape, not rounded on top, because that will make it look like a pigeon. So it's very straight lines. Second, its belly is coming in your illustration, the belly is coming straighter than is needed, and it's coming and sitting plump on the legs. If you take that line slightly towards the right, reduce this girth over here. No, don't draw so many lines there.
I'll rub it off. But this is where you're talking. I mean, this
Yeah,
is where I
no.
need to.
Correct. So I'm saying don't draw so many lines there at all. When you're making a correction, just draw one line, not multiples.
Okay.
Then another line to cut it. It's like you're creating a cut there, even further. It's not so round. It's not so round and it doesn't come higher. It just comes inside a little bit. Okay. Can you send me a picture, Ritu? I think it will be
Yeah,
better.
yeah,
Show
yeah,
you on
yeah.
screen. This is very typical when drawing birds. Actually, everything, no? Getting the or getting confused with the proportions and placement.
Aditi ma'am, can you check mine?
Yeah. Oh. Yeah. Ritika, you also send yours. Okay. Let's examine Ritu's. So according to our picture, here are the changes you need to make. This line needs to just go in so much, and your bird is sitting too comfortably on its own legs. The leg needs to come out further. So it needs to come out like this. Maybe a little less. All right. Then the beak situation. I think a little bigger at this proportion should be fine. And there's no dip there at the neck as much as you are making it. Bring this straight down. So this will automatically reduce the space over here. Hmm. And then from inside here, you have the tail come down. And it's no more than just about so much. Can you see?
So I just decrease the tail is too long, isn't it?
Look at all the proportions. The neck is a little too round and short, and it's dipping inside from here. See? There is no dip into the neck. Let's see if the bird fits. Oh, see this? There's hardly any dip that goes inside the neck.
Yeah.
So that. Then also the roundness of the bird. It is round, yes, but it's not as round as you've made it, and it's not this long. So I suppose, yeah, my line can change a little bit here. Maybe this angle can come out so much, but it's not as long. Not as round.
It's plumper, right?
What is plumper?
The bird.
Which one, yours or mine?
I mean, it should be plumper, right?
No, it should be slimmer.
Okay.
Are you seeing it as a plumper? We are making the sparrow.
Yeah, sparrow.
Let me just share it with you.
Maybe the tail has become too long, hai na?
Tail has become long, yes. So just adjust that first. Adjust
Yeah.
the more obvious ones first.
Yeah, because then that visually just creates a mess.
Yeah. Okay, let's see Ritika's. Yeah. So in your case, Ritika, I wish I could superimpose. So in your case, I think, what adjustments can we make? I think the head is looking fine. This line can come slightly straighter. Right now, your bird is looking like it's leaning forward. So I don't know if this bird is leaning that much forward. It's
Yeah.
mostly,
It's looking like it's leaning forward, but it's not that much leaning.
there isn't that much of a lean, no? So it's like you've tilted it in one direction when it can actually be just over here, somewhat like that. And the beak can be slightly smaller because this is moving in the direction of a I guess a different bird. And I think the head can be thoda sa micro adjustment on the head.
Okay. And like you have drawn those feathers,
Mm.
I'm a bit scared to
Why?
go ahead and because I feel like, like those lines, they're like, we will do like something. I mean, my mind is like, it will be not smooth and it will just ruin. So maybe hard lines would come and then I don't know how exactly the feather should be.
Yeah,
So,
yeah. No, so don't draw hard lines, no. Draw them light. You just touch the pencil on paper and just draw a short line. Uske
Short
bagal mein short line, uske bagal mein short line. And it should come.
let me try.
Okay, next is Zai. Zai, proportions are looking good. The front of the bird, I think, is a little fat. So just bring from the neck down. There's the dip inside is a little too long. There's just a tiny dip, then it comes slightly straighter instead of going out. So you've made him slightly pot-bellied. And it comes outward. Back is fine, but bring the feathers a little higher. They're quite neatly tucked in a line, not as shaggy. And then the foot is a much straighter line. You have the bottom of the foot up to whatever I assume is the ankle, and then the two digits are pretty flexed out. Then from the neck, I think there isn't such a rounded back.
Yeah.
Bring that down straighter. This part I think is fine, this part. And just make the demarcations in the tail feathers.
Okay.
All right. Shall we paint? Now for painting, I would recommend putting an underlayer of blue, cobalt blue, before we start painting anything else. So that underlayer may or may not really work. Definitely will give us some dimension before we start working. I want to not put that layer afterwards because then I don't want it to interfere with the rest of our textures. So this underlayer helps in building depth in the illustration. Now I have a little bit of cerulean blue here. To the same one, I'm going to add a little bit of cobalt blue. And it's a very light, shadowy color. And I'm applying it at the bottom of the peak. And I want you to see how this application is done. Do not apply it like this. Don't run the line parallel to the body. This is a 10 number brush, and I'm running it at a perpendicular angle to the body. It's not all the way, it stops here, then it starts here. So these are shadows that are existing in a few areas. So if I were to ask you to just draw the shadows of this bird, where would you draw them? Even in this space, you will notice that there is a little highlight on one side and a shadow, a deeper shadow over here. And that's it. This is the underlayer.
So it's cobalt blue, right, Aditi?
Right. I could make a little bit of this on top of the beak as well. Now we will make a mix of whatever warm colors you have. If you have scarlet and gamboge and orange, just take all those colors. To that, add light red. Make it a very watery shade. Now, all the coloring that we're going to do over here is going to be layered one on top of the other. The shades are going to be very light. So at the end of class, I want your water to look very slightly tinted. The reason I am giving you this directive is because otherwise you will be, normally people are taking lots of color in their palette and then going and dunking the brush and washing the brush like we're painting a whole wall, or like literally how sparrows bathe. And then there's a lot of water in this. Then they'll take that all that water from the brush and then dunk it in the cake and take lots of paint. And then problem is all that lots of paint goes onto your painting as a fat blob of color, which you don't want. So in an effort to keep your water as clean as possible, you will automatically start taking lesser paint, restrain how much you are using, and also then be forced to layer the paint cleverly on top of previous layers and build that depth instead of coming onto one fat dark color all at once. All right, now each section over here can be painted individually and separately. So, the head of this bird is slightly light in color. I'm going to, if you have a test paper, great. I'm writing the colors over here, so I'm going to just draw this, paint this to check my consistency. And I'm going to paint this whole head in one shot, including the black parts. And press on the top of the head.
So what color is it, Aditi?
I'll tell you, yes. And as I come towards the end, I will end this in very wispy strokes. So see how much paint I keep in my brush. It's very little. And I want to end the strokes in a place where I will have to put a little dark color. So then I don't have to worry about a dark shade ending up in this place at all. I have used light red, which is this color here, next to scarlet. And there's very little paint in my brush. The color on the head is different from the color on the wings. So I'll wait till you all finish the head and then we'll go to the rest of the body. I'm just going to go get some water for myself. All right. Now, if you have a slightly deeper color or lighter color, don't fiddle with the painting till all the color dries. Next one, we will make a mix of yellow ochre, a little bit of this one, color we hardly use, raw umber. And make that mix a little away from the color on the crown. This is going to be the body shade. So it's a very neutral color, and in order to achieve make a cool color warm or a warm color cool, you obviously add the complementary shade. So to this, we can add a little bit of cobalt blue and see where this goes. It starts becoming less yellow, obviously. And it might just be enough for us to paint the body feathers and a little bit of the feathers on the top of the wing, on the shoulder. So this is this same color, a little bit, that is light red, a little bit of yellow ochre, a little bit of raw umber, and cobalt blue. And even this application has to be rather wispy. So quick stroke, don't dwell. And in this case now, don't paint some edges of some wings, feathers. That's it. Just 4 or 5 strokes should suffice. One reason
Aditi,
is that,
go over the colors now. Sorry, please.
yeah. This is, let me write them down for you. This is light red plus yellow ochre plus raw umber plus cobalt. So we need to make this, we need to paint this very lightly, simply because we already have an underlayer that we don't want disturbed. And if the color is sufficiently light, you don't really need to do more than staining. Nothing more is going to come off in any case. And then using this color, making brief brush strokes, you can also press the brush down, cover up the shoulder part of the bird. After that is done, we'll make a new color with burnt sienna and yellow ochre for the rest of the wings. And now we have to do a little bit of careful painting. So wherever you see the brown wings and also the black part of the wing, paint this part very slowly and carefully. So I would paint this part like that. And see, every time I paint, the tip of my brush also has the opportunity to create a negative silhouette of a white feather above this row. And you pull this line down. And you can make this stroke by stroke, leave the edges unpainted. Go over the sections which are also going to be black. In some places, you can increase the quantity of yellow ochre, like in this case, and you can paint this feather by feather. So I'm dodging around the white parts of the previous feathers. And just for me to be able to see where the black parts come, I tend to not paint the black parts in some places like this over here. Otherwise, the whole thing becomes very confusing. There are maybe 20, oh no, not 20, say 10 lines over here. These are very difficult to make. So I'm making about 5 or 6 lines. There is a little black element that will come here. So it's going to be mostly indicative over here. If you feel confused about color, which color where, then literally break a petal, not petal, I'm still in flowers. Break the feather down. Take only one feather. Let's say these two feathers, which look like they're merged. Come towards the bottom, and you'll see that there's a triangular black shape coming here, and then there's a slightly oval shape over there, which I'm leaving blank, and then the line continues. So take your time over here. Don't be in a rush to paint, and definitely not that the painting that we think watercolor artists do, which is this fatafat washes and then finish off with this flare. It's very annoying. You must have seen this in movies. The way artists paint in movies is such a misleading idea. And now the same color, before it dries out, you can paint the tail feathers. I'm leaving a little bit of a gap between the bottom of the top of the tail feathers, putting in a little highlight in a few tops or top areas of the feathers. The same color you'll also see on some feathers on the shoulder, but very light. So take the color in your brush, wipe the brush, don't wash it, and use the residual paint to make this. So just a few lines in the right direction should start adding depth. So in all of this, I want you to keep an eye on the tip of your brush. You must have control of that part. Now using this color of the body, I'm letting the wings dry. I'm using the color of the body to paint a few very, very light strokes on the cheek. And this part then will look whiter than the cheek. So now we literally have to build up depth using only these colors before we come to the black. Some places we have color 3, which is burnt sienna. Some places color 1, that's a light red mix. And some places color 2, that is the raw umber mix. And you keep building depth into your picture using a very, very light color. Now I'm using a number 10 brush because I'm comfortable with the amount of medium or controlling the amount of medium. But that might not be your case. So use a very thin brush for this next execution. And using that thin brush, build feather upon feather. Here too, the line has to be as wispy as these lines that I've talked about. So if you've practiced sketching those lines, you should be able to replicate that same pressure even when we change the medium to watercolor. Now, I'm going to use the same light red shade, or no, it can be the burnt sienna shade, to paint the eye. And I'm painting the iris part of the eye first. going over the lens part, painting the color more on the top of that oval, wiping the brush and then pulling that color down, so creating a subtle color change even in the eye. It's a very subtle 19 difference, but I'm telling you, our eyes are so sophisticated, they catch all these things. And then using the same color to build some depth around the eye. And now finally, I'll move to black. Sorry. Okay. Our black is going to be the usual cobalt blue and black mix. You can put a little bit of burnt umber as well. For obvious reasons, you would paint this towards the end, because in this today's case, the reason is we have to keep our water clean. And you start painting with a very gray shade. Whenever you start painting something like this, always start from the middle of that area, not the edge. Because as you start painting, you realize that sometimes your edge is wrong. And there's no correcting that after you have painted it. So just as a strategy, start painting from the middle and then go towards the end. You can always expand the edge. You can't contract it. Do pay attention to the highlight on the beak. And this all the membranes that you will now start seeing in detail. It's important to make these feathers line by line. Don't be in a rush to paint a patch. Though it looks like a patch, it is totally worth it painting it line by line. And the dark parts should be built up. In some places, of course, the color would clump. That's fine. But don't make it flat. And finally come to the center of the eye. Now, obviously, this is a very light color. My poor sparrow is looking so dazed. I think he's looking like he's been on a cocaine binge or something, I hear. So if our pigment is very light and layered, you can then adjust this thing also. You can change the depth of the color. And now he might look a little more relaxed. See? So now I've started filling out the grays, and the same strategy is used for the other grays also. The black parts in the other feathers. Now, this black in the other feathers is like a deeper burnt umber. It looks black, but it isn't. So avoid painting a very defined black color and try painting it in a burnt umber mixed with black instead, or even cobalt blue for that matter. And use very small or thin lines to recreate those shapes, one feather at a time. Now, this part can also be done at the time you are painting the first color itself to avoid confusion. So, I would urge you to choose the technique that you find most comfortable. Okay, so we are at 11 o'clock now. Do you think you guys will be able to complete this bird? Because all the colors have been covered.
Aditi, this last one is burnt sienna with a little bit of black in it.
Yes. No, not burnt sienna. Burnt umber.
The dark one, not the black.
No,
You're not using pure black, na?
no.
Okay.
This is black plus cobalt blue plus burnt umber.
That's for the beak and the eye.
That's for the beak and the feathers on the face. Those are much darker.
So you're saying black, burnt umber, and cobalt.
Yeah. Okay, so I'll be completing this picture sometime tomorrow and share it. And tomorrow we are meeting at 10 for me to complete the fourth part of our florals, which is going to be graphic flowers. And then, so in Feb, we will have 4 classes, but they will be over 2 weekends. That's this weekend and the weekend of the 17th and 18th. And then in March, we have 5 Saturdays. So we will cover up everything. Okay,
Can you
so
put up a picture of your bird with the colors mentioned on it so that we
I'll
can
share.
work on it?
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
And
Thanks.
those of you who are interested in the Srinagar retreat, please book ASAP because we need to finalize the dates and book airline tickets in time. Otherwise, everything becomes very expensive. And secondly, next Saturday, we are doing that NMACC pop art visit to the gallery. So if you are free, I think maybe around 11 o'clock at NMACC is what I'm planning. Whoever can come, do come. I'm just going, I'm happen to be in town on over the weekend for the Mahindra Blues Festival. So I thought we could all meet up and see that exhibit also. It should be fun. So 11 at NMACC on the 10th. And tomorrow we are meeting any case. Yeah.
So
Okay.
tomorrow, can we do the floral compositions? I think that's what we were doing
Floral
last week.
composition. All right, we can do floral composition also because that also falls under graphics. So we can do that.
Yeah.
Cool. Okay. Bye.
Thanks, Aditi.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.